see that?
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Okay, so we're here to talk about crafting your teen's journey from high school to successful career. I thought I would start off by telling you a little bit about my journey and who I am and what brings me to this. So I'm your guide, Linda Hollenback. My journey started off in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I'm originally from Northeast PA. I come from a family that I would say was of humble means. Many of my family members are kind of blue collar workers. Both of my parents did get some higher education, but didn't take the traditional path. My mom went on for a nursing tech, a one-year program. It was a 2-year program in New York City. And my dad went into the Army and then eventually went and earned a degree from Penn State after leaving the Army, having taken some classes. But both of them really instilled in us that education was important, that education was a means of enriching yourself, enriching your life, and also kind of moving yourself forward in life. And those values really kind of I took to heart, and they were important to me. Also kind of ties in later in life, having done a strengths finder. I am a learner and input, so I love not learning and exploring and researching. And so that kind of fits me in that way as well. But kind of from that and knowing that my family didn't have a ton of means for, paying for college, I really put my nose to the grind, like knowing that my education was so important. So I graduated top of my class. I was valedictorian at West Scranton High School, class of 275. And I knew that scholarship was going to be my ticket out. So I earned the trustee scholarship at Boston University, as well as the IBM Thomas J. Watson scholarship. And that was what allowed me to pursue my higher education at Boston University. My time at Boston University was transformative. I learned a lot about myself. I had stumbling blocks along the way, but navigating the college environment without having a whole lot. I mean, my parents, again, were very supportive and believed in education, but they hadn't really had that experience themselves. So I kind of really had to take the lead, and I was also the oldest of 5. So over time, I was also helping my siblings to navigate that as they came up behind me. After graduating, I graduated just after 9/11, and so obviously the world was kind of the first major upheaval of my lifetime. And I came back to the Scranton area, worked in a local college for a little while as a residence hall director, kind of managing 3 dorms. But then an opportunity presented itself to be a high school Latin teacher. And I had always wanted to be a teacher, again, education being so important to me. So it was an emergency certificate. It was a teacher had fallen ill in the local district, and they had heard about me, who I had a degree in the classics. And so I taught at a high school, and I loved teaching. But what I loved even more was working with the students outside of the structure of the bells. I was involved with their Interact Club, leading their connection with the community, helping students to think about how they could make a difference. I really loved that. And so when it came to making the decision of whether to turn my emergency certificate into a real teaching, a full teaching certificate, or to pursue another path, I decided to pursue a path of a master's in higher education management. And so that brought me to my next city, Philadelphia, which I am still here in the area. So that obviously was a wonderful move for me. And I did my master's at Penn in higher education management in order to have that ability to work with youth, to help them navigate the colleges, kind of be that person that I didn't necessarily have. I mean, I did find mentors throughout my college time at BU that I think partially led me to that. But that was where my journey took me. And I was in the universities, throughout this area, much of my tenure at Penn itself, over a little over a decade. But during that time, I also had some things happen in my life. My father was diagnosed with ALS and eventually passed away. I had an aunt at 62 diagnosed with lymphoma. And so I really had this kind of aha moment of that life is short, and that while I had, done all the things that I was supposed to do, there was kind of something burning in me to do more and to be able to reach students more. So I took fall 2014 as what I call my fall sabbatical, and I did 18,602 miles across the US, national parks, art museums. My biggest thing was, where can I be for sunset? Where can I see sunset? I wanted to see the country, see the place that I loved, and to see the nation. And when I came back, started looking to go back into higher ed, but knew that something more, I needed something, I wanted something more. I wanted to go beyond. When I was at Penn, the most heartbreaking thing for me was the students, whether they had realized that Penn, they got caught up in the Penn name, but it wasn't really the right fit for them. And so they didn't feel at home there and they weren't thriving there. Or they were, they liked Penn, they were happy to be there, but they had kind of were burning out. There were these bright, shiny stars with such incredible accomplishments and incredible potential, but they were struggling with overcoming the hurdles that they faced. They hadn't really had obstacles. And so, thinking about all of these things during my fall sabbatical, I decided to launch Hollenback Consulting as a way to help families, to help teens, to help young professionals to get clarity, to build their confidence, and to find their voice and help them along that journey, help them to see that the path forward is one step at a time. And so that's really the heart of what I do, is bringing together my experience, my own journey in my education and in my career, my experience, advising students, but also bringing together my passion for helping students have that edge, have that guide, that partner to help them see the path forward in a way that wasn't fully clear for me when I was their age. So that's kind of where I come from. That's kind of the journey that inspires me. And so, the conversation today is talking about how you can kind of help your teen in that same way, help them to think about their journey as they approach these years. So, what do you want for your teen? What is it that you hope for your teen? And feel free to jump in. This doesn't have to be just a one way. For me and from, my years as Amanda mentioned, I've now worked with hundreds of families, actually from around the globe, navigating the college admissions process and the transition from college into career. Most of what I hear is that you want and you want them to be happy. You want them to find something that fulfills them, that allows them to live a life that you imagine for them and that they imagine for themselves. And so with that being at the heart of our goal, how do we get there? How do we create that happiness through success and independence? And so for me, the journey is a path. It's about discovery, and it's about helping them to find their passion. What is it that really excites them? What is it that calls to them? Where do they feel like they're at their best? Their purpose, how they can take and transition and transform their passion into something that can help fuel them and give them a sense of identity and purpose and meaning in their life. That comes through building their confidence, helping them through getting that clarity of their passion and their purpose. They build their confidence. From that confidence, they have the ability to be proactive in that journey, that ability to seek out opportunities that speak to their passion and their purpose. And ultimately, the hope is that through that, with that confidence and being proactive and with all of our support, they can build the resilience that they need to overcome those obstacles. So they don't burn out before they get started, before they begin to really shine. So that's kind of, for me, that's the roadmap that underlines everything that I do, and the way that I see this journey that begins it really begins in high school, because this is the point when they really start to come into their own, right? So this is just another way of looking at it. This is a kind of a business entrepreneurial company that has the infographics, but I've always, this one I found this one shortly after college, and this has just always resonated with me, that it's that intersection, that purpose is that intersection of what they love, what the world needs, what you're really good at, your strengths, and then hopefully what you can get paid for. How can you bring that together into something that allows you to have that success and that independence, both independence of life and choices, but also financial independence. So kind of trying to find that heart, that center. So how do we get started? For me, I'm going to give you some of my my top 5 tips for how we start this journey, how we approach it at each stage of high school, and then we certainly can, if you have any other questions and want to talk about into college, we could certainly talk that as well. So the first tip is put them in the driver's seat. This is, I know, incredibly hard. As parents, you have protected them and wanted to help lead them and drive them, and it's hard, just like the true putting them in the driver's seat, when they hit that sophomore junior year, as they get those driver's license. But this journey has to be their journey. You are certainly part of it. It is important that you're involved in it, but for them to build that confidence that they need in order to build that proactivity, to build that resilience that allows them to be successful, that allows them to make the most of their experience, that allows them to really approach college with the clearness that they need, the clarity that they need to succeed at college, to overcome the obstacles they will face. I mean, even the best and brightest student, even the all A student, is going to have a professor that's going to challenge them, a course that's going to make them question themselves. And so they need to have the tools, that confidence and that clarity and that resilience in order to overcome that. And so you really need to put them into the driver's seat. And so to do that, you have to foster that independence, to foster that confidence through questions and through developing and opening the lines of communication with them early, starting in that freshman year, allowing them that space to share with you. What impact do you want to have? Asking them, that is a big question. That is the question I ask the families that I work with, the teens that I work with, kind of on day one. They don't often know the answer to that, and that is okay. You don't necessarily, it's not about having the answer. This is a question that we're all often asking ourselves throughout our lives at all different stages, but it's planting that seed of asking the question and getting them to think about that, and then exploring that throughout the journey. That's what really makes the difference. How will you make the world a better place, right? Thinking about fast forwarding in their life and asking them to look back and think about what is it that they want to accomplish. I actually even I have an 11-year-old niece, and I have asked her this question to get her thinking. How do you want to make the world better? What can you do, right? What are you most curious about? So what are those areas that they find exciting, that they want to explore and uncover? What are the fields, the industries, the topics that excite them? Helping them to discover that curiosity. What cause, what community, what idea do you care about? Asking them to think about that, to have conversations about what's going on in their school community, in their clubs, in the local community, asking them to be aware, to challenge them to see what's going on and to see what what they care about, and how they can think about creating solutions or being part of that solution. That's the early starting point of helping them to figure out what is their passion. What are the tools that they have in their toolbox that they can use to make a difference. The next tip is to ask for directions. You know, again, this is their journey, and they need to be in that driver's seat. So asking them for the directions of what skills do you want to develop, right? Who can I introduce you to? So asking them to think about how you might be able to leverage. I mean, especially, you know, many of us are part of the chamber. There are a lot of resources and people in our own networks in our world that we often don't think about. We think about it for our own business, for our own, you know, needs in, you know, our life, in our home, our as I said, in our business networking and advancement. But who can we think about leveraging in our network to introduce our teens to? How can we leverage that connection, those connections, to allow them to explore themselves and their interests, whether it be through a 15-minute, you know, informational interview over Zoom, or, you know, let's say forget a coffee conversation, maybe a shadowing day, or potentially an internship, you know, a short internship where they can kind of learn and explore their different interests, right? It's not about knowing necessarily, you know, what they're going to be when they grow up. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you know, if you would have told any one of us, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we'd be making phone calls on a watch, or, you know, doing all of our meetings and interactions over our phones or our computer screens, we would have thought you were crazy. You know, so in that same way, we don't know, especially when we're talking, if your student is that 6th grader, that 8th grader, that 9th grader. I mean, we're talking, by the time they graduate college, we're talking 10 plus years from now. What's the world going to be? What is technology? How are we going to shift? So it's about helping them to learn the skills that help prepare them to be flexible and adaptable to that, and exploring what there is now and thinking critically about that in terms of how do they want to push it to the next level? How do they want to
self-addressed postage
take it? I think that was just was that a question? Or I think that was just a comment in the background. Okay. So who can you leverage to help them explore what is now, and have conversations with those professionals about what they see coming down the road in their industry? What do they see as the next wave for their industry, to get your team thinking about that? Next is to be the guardrail. You know, again, I'm not saying put them in the driver's seat and, you know, totally you know, let them go wild. But your role, and how I see my role, is to be the guardrails, to make sure, you know, that we aren't pulling the steering wheel out of their hand, but that we're also making sure that they're staying on the road and moving forward, right? So how can we really encourage them and support them in their journey and in their moving forward? How can we make sure that we're the whisper in the ear when they're maybe, you know, before they have that conversation with that professional, so that way they feel prepared, they feel supportive, but they also feel that they have the opportunity to shine and to ask questions and learn. The other reason I say be the guardrail is because, you know, the guardrail doesn't necessarily completely stop the accident, but hopefully it prevents the fully going off the cliff. It's okay for the side of their car to get a little bumped and bruised, for their bumper to get a knock in it. It's actually important that they do have that knock, so they can learn from it and they can learn to correct course themselves. And so we want to really think about how we can be supportive and encouraging, but also allow them to have the knocks in life that help them to grow and build their confidence and build their resiliency. that is really the key to this. So that way they can correct and adjust their course to align with what feels right to them, their passion and their purpose. And I know this can be hard and frustrating as a parent, but resist taking that wheel back. So how can you support them? You know, asking them, how can I support you? But also having the conversation, what do I expect of you? And this is, you know, in their journey of their exploration of giving them expectations of that you want them to, you know, maybe it's challenging them to have 3 conversations over the summer, or to participate in some kind of summer program for a certain length of time that allows them to explore one path. You want them to, again, it's about the exploration for learning not only what they like, but also ruling out what they don't like. That's just as important. Additionally, I mean, when we're thinking about the college planning process, it's also about conversations, and I challenge you, I mean, this is something that oftentimes families don't talk about, the financial side of college. It's a big investment, you know, both in their time, but also of money and resources. And so what is the expectation as a family? You know, what as a family can you support? Are you willing to support? And where are you going to challenge them to have some skin in the game, to give them ownership of their future, helping them to have, you know, some means of I said, ownership and skin in the game for it. You know, is it that, you know, they have to have a part-time job to help pay for books? Do you expect them, you know, maybe it's that you expect them to apply for some outside scholarship to help defer some of the costs. So how can you help them to rise to the challenge and rise to meet your expectations by having those conversations early, and making it an open thing that you can talk about and grow with them over the course of the 4-year journey. So starting to have those conversations, you know, in freshman year about thinking about the future and kind of where you see how you can support and what you expect of them. And then continuing that each year as the process evolves. The next tip is don't let the other drivers distract you. I can't say that enough. I feel like a large part of what my role in practice is dispelling the myth. My friend said, my coworker's daughter got in because I heard that. There is a lot of noise there. And just like you tell your teen when they're out driving to, you know, not be distracted by the text or the phone or their friend in the backseat, I, you know, ask you to try to filter out that noise. It's not about, you know, they did this. You know, there are a lot of myths, and so you want to get to the heart of the resources and really thinking about the college admissions process, thinking about it holistically and strategically, because that's how the colleges are looking at you. It's not one magic bullet. Oh, here's the you know, through the grapevine. There is no magic bullet when it comes to college admissions. There's not a, oh, you have to do X number of AP courses, or, you know, should my student have, you know, X number of extracurriculars, or I heard they have to have an athletic sport, or they have to do service. There's not a magic formula. It's about their authentic journey and being able to share that with the colleges. They are looking holistically, you know, to say, oh, well, they have to have 8 extracurriculars. I can tell you a student, you know, a teen like a Simone Biles who has 1 major extracurricular is still going to get into college because she's fulfilling her passion. You know, the Greta Thunberg who is, you know, is passionate about climate change. She doesn't necessarily have to have 5 other activities and a sport. So it's not to say that they have to have one big one like that either, but it's about kind of having the combination that is right for your teen. It's about having the exploration that is right for them, that allows them to tell their story effectively, that allows them to have the clarity of what it is they want, who it is they are, and how they are going to add value to that college community. By starting with how they're adding value and thinking about how they're contributing and impacting their high school community. So the last tip is that success is in the journey. Really, it is about the journey. That's what the colleges care about. You know, the number of AP classes is all relative because not every school offers AP courses. So if your school doesn't offer the AP courses, you know, your teen isn't expected to have them. If your school has them, then how is your student maximizing within the means of their capabilities and their strengths? How are they maximizing the curriculum to help foster their journey and their voice? You know, I get students, you know, families who are like, well, should they take, you know, they really want to take this medical terminology course, but it conflicts with AP English. You know, what should they do? You know, I'm telling them they have to take the AP English. Well, I would tell them, is their dream, is their goal to do something in the biomedical field or the healthcare profession? Then the medical terminology course is going to make more sense for them in terms of that fulfilling that future and fulfilling that purpose for themselves and being able to share their story of their passion. And so in some cases, it's the AP isn't necessarily the best choice. So again, that success is in their journey and in finding it. So for me, that kind of authentic journey in terms of the high school years, you know, we start off with ninth. Ninth is the year of exploration. This is their year they're going to be getting their feet on the ground in high school. High school is different than middle school. And, you know, it comes sometimes with some of those bumps. Again, it's okay. That guardrails are there. We're there. The school is there. Colleges do look at ninth grade. The colleges are only really looking at ninth through 12th grade. But I will say that ninth grade weighs a little less because they understand that transition, because they're going to experience it the same thing again when they get to their freshman year of college. Freshman year of college is a major transition, and they need to get their feet on the ground. So, you know, I'm encouraging you to start early and have these conversations, but it's also about really staying calm and measured. You know, they don't need to have to do their SAT, their first SAT in freshman year. This is their year to get their feet on the ground, to lay the groundwork, to lay that foundation for what their future is, to really think about what their path is, to ask themselves those questions about how do they want to make a difference? What are the things that they're most curious about? What are the classes, the subjects that they most enjoy, in order to kind of map out what makes sense for the future? It's about, you know, encouraging them to try new things, to, you know, maybe challenge them to join one club that kind of seems a little off from what they would normally do or what they normally expect, in order to push the boundary, to challenge them maybe to, you know, have that one or two informational interviews to get a sense of different career paths that they're interested in. There are also great online resources to help them explore. My website, which I'll have at the end, hollenbackconsulting.com, I have a resource library with some things for both college planning as well as career exploration. There are some great online assessments, you know, 16 personalities, where they can get a little bit more of a sense of themselves, or the VIA characteristics. Evaluation. So those resources are out there to help them in that year of exploration, to get a sense of who they are and what they're interested in. But it's also, you know, it's the year to have a little bit of a flub. It's okay if they get that B or that C. It's okay. They can overcome it. The colleges are going to be looking for, how did they progress? How did they challenge themselves? How did they rise to that challenge? So it's about how they are going to set the foundation and build on it. 10th grade, I say, is the year of discovery. So after having explored, this is a chance for them to dive a little deeper, to discover more about themselves, to kind of refine, not even refine, but to kind of dive a little bit deeper to, a lot of times in the extracurriculars, say in the school level, they can't necessarily have that formal leadership role as a sophomore. Occasionally they can, but how can they have an informal leadership role? If there's something that they're interested in, a club that they're really enjoying, how can they step up on a project or, offer a suggestion for a new initiative? How might they, show that they have interest and allow themselves to shine and test their strengths and their abilities? In both of these years, and in the year of exploration and discovery, there are ways, you don't necessarily have to be going, by the end of 10th, you can start going on the formal college tour, but, it's about more of the informal. If you're having the family vacation, or if you live in an area as we do where there are tons of colleges and universities, maybe it's on a Saturday and the family's thinking, like, let's go out for a walk. Instead of walking at the park, find a local college campus to go walk along and get a sense of what feels right to them. We as adults, have had to find apartments or homes over the years, and you don't know what you're looking for until you see it a lot of times, or you have that feeling you've been looking house after house after house, and you're honing in on what you like, and so you're refining your interest, but you're not really sure of the house until the moment you step in it. You step in the one and you're like, this is the one. Your student, your teen is going to have that same feeling when it comes to colleges. And so leveraging the colleges in your area, or when you go on vacation, even if it's not necessarily a school that's on their radar, just for the sake of getting that sense of the type of college that feels like home to them, whether it's big, whether it's small, whether it's in a city, whether it, has a more urban or rural or a suburban, they want a small college town feel. These are great things that you can do, early, without the pressure of, oh, we have to meet with the admissions officer and, oh, you have to decide. This is the time to just ease them in, be the guide rails, allow them to wander that campus, explore, and take the lead. And then ask them, what did you think about this one? Now that we've seen two, how would you rank the two of them? Or what would you, what did you like or not like? How would you compare and contrast them? Asking those questions, again, ask for those directions, so then you can help to navigate, what might come next. In 11th grade, this is really the year to refine. This is your primary year. This is the big year that colleges are looking at, because it's the final full year before the application process. And this is, this is the year where they really should be, and you should be encouraging them to take some leadership. Whether it be in a school club, whether it be something in the community, or honestly, even if it's something that they enjoy, it's a hobby that they have that's kind of outside of a traditional, that counts too. So just allow them and encourage them to dig deeper, to dive in, to develop themselves and their leadership skills, to create depth, versus breadth. It's not, again, it's not about having 12 different activities, throwing spaghetti at the wall too. It's about really kind of honing in and creating some depth in some areas that are of interest to them. I'll also put, in terms of like testing, I know that's always a big question. Again, 9th grade, you don't need to worry about it. 10th grade, by spring, maybe winter break or spring break, maybe thinking about a diagnostic test. So not the official sitting, but just kind of a diagnostic to get a sense of, do they like the SAT or the ACT better? Which one suits them? Or if their school has a prep course built into the curriculum, for one of them, then, why not utilize that? And so do a diagnostic to kind of get a sense of where they're at, and what they're going to need to focus on. So 10th grade is more of diagnostic. If they are taking APs in 10th, then you can think about maybe aligning this SAT subject test with that. In the spring when they're studying for the AP, it's easy to kind of then transition and have that second test there. But really 11th grade is that year of refinement, that year to kind of start building those building blocks. That's the year, fall of junior year is a great time to have that first official test. Hopefully you'll have, had that diagnostic in 10th to kind of set the stage if needed, get the prep course, so that way they're ready for that 11th grade. And then if they need to take it again, you know, oftentimes I say, you know, definitely, you know, unless they really score off the charts that first time, you know, a second sitting is always good because their nerves are down a little bit because they already have done it once. And the second sitting should be good at that point. You know, a third if absolutely necessary, but no more than 3. There's no need to be, you know, beating that testing horse over and over and over again. 2 to 3 times is more than enough to get them, you know, where they're at, if, you know, if you've been strategic about it. So really, this is the year to refine. This is as they have gotten hopefully more clarity in terms of who they are, what they like, what are their areas of interest, what are the industries. This is the year to really start digging in. Well, what are the majors? So I'll have a student who will say, well, I like my biology class and I like to help people, so I want to be a doctor. That's great, and that's a fabulous profession, and there are certainly a lot of ways to map out your pre-med journey. But I find that most students, because we teach in silos in the school, they're not necessarily realizing that there's so much more out there, that helping people could equal doctor, but it could also equal, you know, nurse. It could also equal, you know, firefighter. It could also equal plumber. It could also equal, you know, teacher. It could also equal, you know, public health. So there are a lot of different ways to health. And biology, you know, that may be the right major, but there's also bioinformatics, biomedical engineering, computational biology, biochemistry. These are fields that and majors that they oftentimes aren't familiar with. So really allowing them to kind of dig in and challenging them to dig in and look to see what are the other things that are related, and digging in at a deeper level, really thinking about looking at the curriculum. What is a biology major versus a bioinformatics major? And which set of courses excites you more? So this is really that year to refine that, to get some additional clarity, hopefully, again, continuing to build and leverage the network and opportunities in your community and through your, you know, family, friends, neighbors, chamber, for career exploration, to see what else is out there and the different ways that their interests and their passions can be played out in the work world. And again, to be flexible, to know that jobs of the future, you know, may be very different. And so it's being, you know, honing in on those core elements of their strengths, of what it is that they do well, you know, finding the patterns in, you know, they're in this club and that club and in their classroom, the feedback that they get, you know, what are the things that they're complimented on? What are the things that people turn to them for help with because it comes easy to them? Really kind of refining that, what are those passions and strengths. And then 12th is the year of the launch. So, you know, as they enter, you know, this, you know, summer is between 11th and 12th. This is when they should be, you know, starting to build those application materials, starting to answer those questions. It will make their life so much easier if they get a head start on that stuff during the summer before they go into 12th. But, you know, 12th is a time of celebration. It's also a challenging year. There's, you know, a lot that are on their plate that usually taking some of their most challenging courses. And so this is helping them to get ready for the future. One of the things that I tell my seniors as they're going into this challenging is to remember that you are the CEO of your business, right? And just like a CEO of any business, whether it be Google or Apple or, you know, Independence Blue Cross, CEOs surround themselves. They have a chief marketing officer and a chief information officer and vice presidents and all of these people around them to support their decision making, to support them in the success. No one person, you know, manages a business alone, and they need to be the CEO of their business. And it is okay to have a team around them. It's okay to ask for help. It's important to ask for help. As I say at Penn, we had the Kelly Writers House, and we had the Weingarten Learning Resource Center, and we had a tutoring center. I mean, they were pouring thousands of, not millions of dollars into resources. And these are the kids that are the best and the brightest, the tops of their class from around the globe. but they still need those resources, because the best students, the most successful people, know how to ask for help and know how to support themselves in their success, because by getting that support, by getting that help, they can be most successful. That's what powers the success, is surrounding yourself with your people. I mean, and that's what you're building the network throughout this path. You're helping them to realize that that the people are part of it. And so by helping to instill that value of it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to have challenges, it's okay to get support, to get tutoring, that sets them up to be ready for college, because they will hit those challenges in college, and they have to know what resources are available to them, and be open and okay and confident enough in themselves to know that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And so that is the journey of the senior years, to make sure that they're ready as they launch into truly being in that driver's seat and being more independent, that they're ready and they know how to access what they need. And through it all, I love this quote from The Alchemist, tell your story, show your example, tell everyone it's possible, and others shall feel the courage to climb their own mountains. That is at the heart of this. We want them to find their story and to tell their story, to inspire them, and through your stories, tell them about your challenges, and so that way they can be courageous and know that they can face their challenges as well. So I hope this gave you a lot to food for thought, and I'm happy to answer questions. If you want to talk specifics about where your teen is in this process and in that journey, I'm happy to have a conversation. It's free, no obligations at all. I walk through, we'll take a look at their transcript and their activities, and kind of see where there are opportunities and how they can leverage their, whether it be the 4 years or if they've got 2 years or wherever they are in that journey, how they can make the most of it. So feel free to contact me at any one of these, and we'll set that up, and we'll talk about the specifics of your teen's plan for the future, if that's of interest. And I always encourage the teen to be part of that conversation. Again, they should be in the driver's seat, and so that's really important. So, and this is my favorite quote, and this is kind of the driving force behind what I do. I want to make it easier for families and for teens to navigate this, because it can be overwhelming. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. What are your thoughts? What are the things that came up from this?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Anybody's welcome to unmute and ask a question of Linda. I thought it was great. I loved the progression. I love watching all of that. Hello, Cheryl. She just noted that that's her favorite quote as well. Cheryl Castro. We have two Cheryls. But yeah, I thought that was helpful. Does anybody have any specific questions or any?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to dig into any of the elements of the college application process or the career and the resume. I know someone mentioned resume. But for me, the heart of the college application and the job application is that story, is that passion. Even when I've worked with I've worked with CEOs on their resume, or executive levels on their resume, it's refining where the passion is and what tools in the toolbox you really enjoy using, and bringing that to life. That's what allows you to take that next step towards that happiness and success and independence. Forcing them, saying, oh, I've had families where the kid is really talented and passionate about kind of the arts and the creative, but parents are like, well, but you're not going to get a job, and oh, computer science, you should be a computer science major. My challenge is don't try to put, certainly if you see something, if you see a strength or see a facet of your teen that they're not seeing in themselves yet or haven't been confident enough in, encourage that, and talk to them about your concern. But it's usually not, one side or the other. It's not black or white. There's usually a gray. If their passion is in the creative, to try to force them down a path that isn't natural that's where they run into, you know, not feeling that they're not being true to themselves, and so they're not going to have that success. It's about trying to find that interaction, because as we all know, you know, career paths, it's not, you know, one or the other. You can't be, you know, the designer without understanding how that design, you know, can be manufactured to be actually a product that is usable. And then you can't, you know, create an engineer something that doesn't have the ability to be mass produced and marketed and be viable out in the marketplace. So you have to know the intersections of things, and there are a lot of majors and a lot of ways that they can leverage their college experience to kind of create that, so that way they stay true to themselves while still getting that practical thing, so that way they can be that financially independent. And so making sure that you're hearing them, listening to them, letting them be true to themselves, while also matching up what's important for their future.
Love it. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment for Linda, Charlie down
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, I just unmuted. Amanda, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
It's Cheryl Castro. I'm not putting my video on because I didn't put any makeup on.
We love you, makeup or without makeup equally. You are beautiful as you are.
Oh, why, thank you.
Yes, she is.
So I think, Linda, I loved everything you had to say, and I just wanted to help add to your point, is that to encourage the child's passion. And I think meeting with someone like you as a third party, oftentimes our kids will bring up stuff or say stuff to someone else that we didn't even know. And I think sometimes, like, we're like, oh, well, they love this, they're into this, let's encourage this. But sometimes they'll tell you things they haven't told us yet. So I love that idea of just having an intermediary for them to, and also you don't know them, you're not judging them, they don't have any preconceived notions about your opinion, they haven't stopped listening to you. So
yes, sometimes it's being kind of the mediator. And I think this also goes to my comment about the expectations. That's another area. There's a lot of times what I find, you know, there are parental expectations sometimes, but sometimes it's the teen that has this belief about the expectations of the parents that isn't necessarily accurate. You know, they feel this pressure, they're putting this pressure on themselves that isn't necessarily based in truth, but it's based in their truth because they feel like they don't want to disappoint you. So by opening up the doors of conversation, trying to break down that and being able to have those conversations about what your expectations are, you know, and oftentimes that base level expectation is you just want them to be happy and successful and financially independent so they don't move back in, you know? So having that conversation about, well, okay, you love this or you're thinking this, you know, how are you going to, you know, create that holistic experience that prepares you to be financially independent? Because I want to know that you're going to be okay, you know, in your future and even after me.
that sounds awesome. Go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. This is Laura Valatakis. Linda, thank you so much, and Amanda also. Thanks for scheduling this. And Linda, I thought everything was excellent. As Amanda said, I love the progression, you know, the 9th to 10th to 11th to 12. The question that I had is, you know, if we're fortunate to discern, you know, what the passion is and how they feel like they're going to make an impact on the world and really what direction she wants to go in, is there like a roadmap to how we start looking at what universities or colleges to start touring and looking at? You know, it's a little overwhelming. I mean, certainly we can hone down like how far she wants to be from home or whatever the case is, but I think the whole, how do you get to the universities that may be the best to look at? It's kind of a daunting process. You know,
Absolutely.
A daunting task for sure.
So that's where, as I said, you know, starting in the 9th and 10th grade during that exploration, when there's not the pressure of, oh, we need to make a decision because we need a school list, you know, utilizing your local area, you know, what does a Del Valle campus look like compared to a Villanova, compared to a Drexel, you know, or a Bryn Mawr? So having them get a sense of the feel that they want, is a great start. Even if they don't, don't worry about the major at that point. It's more about kind of trying to get a sense of where do they feel at home, because if they feel at home on the campus, if they feel like they can see themselves there, they will be more successful. So you start with that, and you can, as I said, use your local area. Again, we're very fortunate in this area that we've got a multitude of colleges and different campus types to choose from.
Yeah.
So getting that sense first. And then from there, once you kind of have a sense of the types of schools, the type of environment that feel right, then it's a matter of looking at what are the schools that have that similar environmental and feel, that offer what they want, what they're interested in. And utilizing, I always caution if, we tend to use the rankings, and that to me is a great starting point. But keep in mind, I know, having worked at university, part of, like, for one example, those rankings, part of what they're based on is the percentage of alumni who donate. And that's because that's a measure of alumni satisfaction.
Right.
And that satisfaction, it's the percentage though, so it doesn't matter if the alum gave $1. So I had worked in alumni relations, and we would have these annual fund campaigns, and we would try to get as many new donors, because that helps boost the rankings, because more people are satisfied. They maybe just gave the $1 or $5. That's not necessarily, is that really going to impact your students' experience and how much better? Yes, you want to, again, use it as a starting point, a guidepost, but also be careful that, school number 1 and school number 50, there's not, we're talking out of 4,000 schools. If you're in the top 50, if you're in the top 100, you're still a fantastic school, and so utilizing that as a starting point, and then digging deeper in. So if, for example, that their interest is that, healthcare world, and maybe it's biomedical engineering, digging into looking at one biomedical engineering program up against the other. What are the curricular? Some of the curriculum is going to be the same. That's how it's accredited. They have to have certain requirements. But what happens at the upper level? Are there special tracks? Are there additional electives? Do they have more flexibility of choice? And looking also at the faculty and the research centers that are tied to it. If your student is inspired in biomedical engineering because, their grandfather had a heart valve put in, and they wanted to kind of evolve that heart valve, if it's the number 1 biomedical engineering, but their focus is on prosthetics or, the eye and vision and whatnot, then is that the best match? No, maybe number 12 is, because they've got a heart lab, And so looking at that at the deeper level to see what really is the match. And then from that, not only does that help you to find schools that are the better fit, but it also allows the student to tell a much better story in that application, because they've been thoughtful about the research, they've dug deeper, they've been more clear about what it is they're looking for and how the school matches with them.
Oh, I love that. Okay, thank you. I love that answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you again, Linda. This has been great, and I really appreciate all of you who came out, or you didn't actually have to come out. That's the great, that's the great thing. Thanks for attending virtually, and if you do want to contact Linda, if you have other questions, she did post her contact information. If you didn't catch it, please feel free to send an email to me, and I will connect the two of you. And we did record it, so we'll be posting this video.
Great. And as I said, on my website, there's a lot of resources for the career exploration, college planning, financial aid, etc. So feel free. They're all just links to really solid resources for the field.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.